If you're building a brand right now, don't schedule a product photo shoot before watching this video. Whether you're launching a beverage brand, a skincare brand, or anything in between, you're probably at the point where you're thinking about how to photograph your products. Depending on the photographer you hire, they may build a mood board for you, or you may already have a vision that you simply want someone else to execute. In this video, I want to talk to you about why mood boarding matters and how to strategically build one that actually drives creative work. Let's get into it. First, if you already have that photographer scheduled and there is no mood board in sight, whether from the photographer or from you, postpone the photo shoot right now. One of the biggest misconceptions about mood boarding is that its only job is to capture an aesthetic or the vibe of what you want your product to look like. That's technically true, but if that's all you're doing, you'll end up with a hodgepodge of images that don't look cohesive together, and this is not going to help you execute your creative direction. If you're like me, you've probably got a Pinterest board for every project you've ever done. I'm going to show you examples of my own photography work and how strategic mood boarding got us the exact right look and feel. But before you go hunting for inspiration, you need to get clear on three things. Number one, what is your brand's personality? To communicate who your brand is visually, you need to have done the work of defining that in the first place. If you haven't nailed down your brand's personality or tone of voice yet, pause here and go back to basics. I've got a video exactly on how to build a brand the right way, linked below. This matters because it's the difference between goth and Barbie. Is your brand serious or is it playful? Once you know your brand's personality, it's easy to tell whether a piece of inspiration fits your guideline, and if it doesn't, don't include it. It'll only model your creative direction. Number two, who is your audience? This one catches people off guard, but your audience matters as much as your brand's personality. It's the difference between shooting a streetwear brand for Gen Z versus a high-end water brand for Gen X. Two products which I've actually mood boarded for, which I'll show you in a minute. You need to know what problem your audience has and how your brand comes in to solve it. Because newsflash, every brand exists to solve something. If you haven't figured out what problem your brand solves for your audience, put the mood board down. Say, for example, you run a handmade goods brand and you sew your own pieces. Depending on what you sell, your audience might be drawn to a slower pace of life and wants a simple, low-fuss brand that can easily fit into that lifestyle. Your audience's lifestyle completely determines how you photograph your product. Number three, what are your goals? Not just goals for the photo shoot itself, but what you want to communicate to your audience visually. Is the goal to make your audience feel understood? That might mean photographing your product in an immersive setting that feels like a sneak peek into your audience's home or lifestyle. Or maybe your goal is to build aspiration, to show your audience the life that they want, not just the one that they have. Visually, that looks different, brighter, more polished, more reach rather than relate. Now let's get into some real examples. First, this shoot I did for Whitehall. This was a dream client. They knew exactly what they wanted. They laid out every image that they needed and what it was for, whether that was website, social, or packaging. Because they were strategic in their approach, we captured every shot on the list so well that their feedback was that this was the closest to concept they'd ever seen. When you're building a mood board, here are two things that you actually need to look out for. Lighting. Is it directional or diffused? What mood does it create? And does that match your brand? Even without a photography background, you can feel that a Dutch angle creates tension or unease. Angles can also imply emotion in a still photo. Take this photo shoot I did as a personal project, for example. I sourced everything, the chair, the props, the clothing, the model. When I was sourcing inspiration on Pinterest, I specifically looked for images that were using an angle that was not straight on. That's what gives the photos the sense that the model is in motion on the tennis court, even though nothing is moving, except for her hair. I achieved this by using the Dutch angle, plus a few shots from slightly above and slightly below the model. Compare that to my favorite shoot to date, a water brand who knew exactly who their audience was, where they like to hang out, and the lifestyle that they either live or aspire to. I built a mood board around that feeling. Same rules applied. Consistent lighting throughout. If you mix brightly lit images with images that have directional lighting, you'll only model the entire creative vision. For this brand, we wanted the shot to feel intimate and warm, like the couple had their own private beach resort. You'll notice how none of my images are exact copies of the inspiration photos. That's the point. We've all seen a lot of the same ideas recycled, and it's easy to mimic something without even realizing it. But a mood board's job is to guide your creative decisions, whether that's lighting, angles, mood, not to hand you a photo to copy exactly. If this breakdown of strategic mood boarding was helpful, go ahead and subscribe. I do deep dives like this one on being a more strategic brand owner. And that's all for today. See you next time. Bye.